So that was the end of the mothball story.
I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him.
Well, I think he's a total fraud.
I agree with you on Trump.
First, Vance's text said, I find him loathsome.
I can't stomach Trump. I think that he's noxious and is leading the white working class to a very dark place.
I didn't vote for Trump.
The second speculated Trump might be America's Hitler.
I was wrong, first of all, because I believed some of the media stories that turned out to be dishonest fabrications of his record.
Appreciate you allowing me to join you on this incredible journey. I thank you for the trust that you placed in me.
In President Obama, certainly he's an admirable person. You look at his personal story.
You're never going to hear me praise Barack Obama.
Intelligence, education, eloquence, on and on and on. So people compare Trump's apartment in Trump Tower to like Elvis Presley's house in Graceland, right? With the gold-plated toilets and the really ostentatious displays of wealth. And they say, this is what a person who isn't wealthy acts like if they have a lot of money.
It's good, you know, I have a plane now that I get to fly around it.
It's telling that the alt-right is driven by primarily very well-educated, relatively smart, relatively stable people.
Like Steve Bannon.
Yeah.
Biden talked about our people like they were vermin. I can't think of another time in my life where I've seen a U.S. president, a sitting U.S. president, talk about his fellow citizens.
The problem we have is on the left, the scum.
With such disgust and disdain.
It's the enemy from within, and we have to handle it before it gets out of control.
And it was one of the grossest things I've ever seen.
They're very dangerous. They're Marxists and communists and fascists, and they're sick.
From a president, that's why I got so fired up.
People, they're so sick, and they're so evil. The horrible plague that's taking place from within.
You know, maybe people who don't look like us are taking too much in welfare benefits. It's useful to remind people, well, hey, what about that guy down the street, right? Or what about all of these people that JD writes about in Hillbilly Elegy who are not othered groups? They're just, you know, part of the sort of white working class demographic. So there's utility, in other words, in finding commonality and pointing out that commonality.
Yesterday, you posted a video claiming Africans are grilling cats in Dayton.
Sometimes there are cultural practices that seem very far out there to a lot of Americans. Are we not allowed to talk about this in the United States of America, Margaret? That video was filmed by a person who was worried about what's going on in these communities and really identifying the ways that things have not been supremely good for some of these other groups of people too, right?
And importantly, where are the immigrants coming from? What are their values? Somehow it's fundamentally racist to say, well, we don't want certain people of certain backgrounds to be in the United States of America. No, it's just common sense.
I mean, political rhetoric actually really matters. George W. Bush, right after September the 11th, reminded everyone that the gross majority, you know, 99.999% of our Muslim citizens were fantastic people and patriots and so forth, that the war on terror was not a war against Islam. And voters responded to that. And we started having conversations, for example, about a Muslim ban, which thankfully President Trump retracted later on in the campaign. But as soon as he talked about a Muslim ban, all of a sudden, a lot of voters actually supported the idea of a Muslim ban. I just don't think that's surprising because, again, people follow the rhetoric of their politicians. If I have to, create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dan. And so I did worry about that. I continue to worry about that. And that, to me, is a much bigger driver than a sort of inherent, I really hate these marginalized groups who are sort of to blame for my problems in one way or the other. Trump was a very successful candidate at a time when people were very cynical. They're frustrated because they're cynical, and they're angry because they're frustrated. And Trump really channeled that rage in a certain way. That the folks who were most likely to support Trump were those whose lives were going south in a lot of other different, maybe hard to, difficult to quantify measures.
It's incredible.
This is incredible.